Welcome to The Growth Leaders, the podcast powered by Short Learning Solutions, where we dive deep into the minds of the world's most impactful leaders and uncover what truly drives growth, innovation, and transformation. Today's guest is someone you don't want to miss. With over 35 years of leadership experience at the highest levels of the corporate world, Erik Schmidt has seen it all. It's a masterclass in leadership, longevity, resilience, and reinvention. Whether you are a rising leader, a seasoned executive, or an L&D professional hungry for fresh insights, Erik brings a depth of wisdom simply can't Google. So buckle up. We're about to unpack decades of leadership lessons in under 1 hour. So let's dive into. Welcome, Erik, to the SHOT podcast, Growth Leaders.
Thank you, Peter. Great to be with you.
So, Erik, you have served as Chief Human Resource Officer at Pandora since August 2019 until recently, spearheading the people-focused side of the bold Program Now transformation. I believe most people know Pandora. Pandora is a Danish company that's the world's largest jewelry brand, specializing in design, manufacturing, and marketing of hand-finished jewelry made from high quality in affordable materials like gold and silver. And you also held senior positions across global brands like Britex, Child Safety, HSBC Banking, Avis Rental, General Electric, and Lego, another famous Danish company. I'm so excited to have you on our show.
Thank you.
So let's dive into this and see where we end up. I mean, you've spent more than 35 years in leadership and HR. What inspired you to dedicate your career to developing people and organizations?
Wow. Okay. Well, that's an interesting question because my very early experience of the corporate world, if you like, was while I was still at university. And I was lucky to land a summer placement with the Ford Motor Company.
Yes.
And I think 10,000 employees or so making Ford Fiestas. And I remember one day, one afternoon, there was a stoppage on one of the Fiesta production lines. And I was like, what was I, 20 years old, something like that. Very green, very inexperienced. But there was something instinctive in me that told me that how Ford handled that stoppage didn't quite work. First of all, they weren't making any cars anymore because they sent the whole line team home. The managers who were supposed to be running the line were disempowered by the layers above, who came flying in and took charge of the situation. And then there was some employee relations experts there who I guess have a mission to resolve disputes when they arise. Did very little, were equally disempowered. And so what I was looking at as a lose situation, nobody is winning. The teams are not getting paid. The cars are not getting made. The profit's not getting hit. It's not good for customers whose cars are going to be late now,
Mm-hmm.
So if there was one formative experience for me very early in my career and my working life that kind of inspired me to think there must be a better way, it was probably that one.
So that led you into the people orientation, and I presume them layers, decentralization, power of decisions. Have you seen anything like that or similar in the companies you've been afterwards? I guess you have, but in different formats. Is there any examples which pops up in your head?
Well, I remember later on in my career, similar kind of environment, this time in the whiskey industry. So I worked for Diageo in their global supply chain in Scotland. And there, the situation was slightly different. There we inherited a situation of entrenched union relations, which were very sour. And where likewise the union, it looked at times like the union leaders were calling the shots and the site managers were impotent. That's never a good combination, right? And so again, but without just upsetting the apple cart and having a strike or a walkout or something else in our hands, piece by piece, we changed that configuration over a year or two. to put in place the right kind of leaders who had the backbone and the courage and the vision to see this a different way. But we also, at the same time, confronted some of the sour relations issues head on, to make sure that wasn't going to be part of the future. And that was part of a mandate we had from the board in Diageo, which was turn around this plant or we're going to close it. And we knew we were going to set a very different vision for the location. And as part of that, we wanted a very different relationship on site as well. And within 2 years, we had achieved that. Not without a couple of very tense moments, of course, but great achievement for the team.
So does this mean? I mean, when you look at the company with fresh eyes, and we will most likely come into this, and there is change needed. So one of the very earliest, the identification of the people running it, and if they are the person to actually drive that change. How do you view that, and what's your perception of the person first, woman or man? It does not matter. What's your perception for being able to drive a change?
But you're right, Peter. I mean, it's an early assessment that we need to do, because driving change with the wrong leadership is destined to fail. There's no question in my mind about it, and I've seen it. I've seen organizations that have been 50% confident in somebody, and for whatever reasons, it's usually about loyalty and long-term commitment. They've said, well, let's try it. Let's give it a go.
Yeah.
Almost never does it work. Yeah. So although it's tougher and it's bolder, it is, in my experience, better to be decisive at the beginning, get someone you have 100% confidence in, and get them in position with the right team around them to drive the transformation.
Yeah. And if you don't do it, you have the risk of also getting into what every organization have seen at a lower level. Well, we have seen it before, so we'll just sit still in the boat.
That's it.
That's what you that's what you don't want to have.
No, and you're spot on. Yep.
Yeah, so that's great. So this is a typical question which you normally have when you do interviews, but it's always exciting. How would people who has been working with you, how would they describe you, not just as a lead, but as a person?
Yeah, I think people would point to a few things. I think they would say this guy's quite a big thinker, bold ambitions.
Yes.
But I think they would also say strong sense of fun, sense of humor. Fun is definitely one of my values. My sense of humor sometimes gets me in trouble, but I kind of don't care. It's just who I am,
It's a Scottish humor.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And then I think as maybe more veering into the leadership side, if I think about what people wrote about me when I left Pandora, the word support comes up in a lot. So I think we can talk more about leadership, but when you get leadership in flow and you really invert the leadership role, so the team is really driving things, and you're really just the conductor. You're just trying to keep things all pointing the same way, make sure everybody's pulling together, they're all playing the same tune. Then the role becomes much more of a support role and much less of a kind of old-fashioned top-down controlling kind of remit, which is not how I really see myself.
So Erik, leadership evolves over time, and if we look back now, let's move Erik back 30 years and compare to him today. Are there any difference in the approaches on who you are as a leader?
Yes, I mean there must be, right, over 30 years. I'm very grateful to have worked for some amazing leaders. So I'd like to think I've benefited in some way from those years.
So what is the differences if you look into it?
Yeah, so I would say some of the differences would be given my natural propensity as a shaper, that one of the things shapers need to do is stop and listen a lot more,
Yeah.
undoubtedly. So I think that would be one big parameter.
Mm.
I think also what I alluded to before about what I like is the leadership inversion
Mm.
concept. So, you take the weight off your own shoulders. You obviously have responsibilities as a leader, unique responsibilities, but the whole thing doesn't need to sit on your shoulders. And when you hire really smart people, which has always been my mantra, to hire people who are brighter and better at what they do than I am, then actually you have huge talent and huge mental horsepower there that you actually want to use, and that the people themselves want to deploy. So that changes your role
Yeah.
significantly, and also, frankly, delivers a better result. So
Uh,
so you've got to learn to be a lot more humble as a leader.
I, so what advice would you give to leaders who hesitate to step into those roles due to, I mean, their comfort zones or fear or their family living, etc.? What would you recommend
Well,
people
I
who
think
has the ambition but still, hesitant?
yes. Well, I think it's different based on those things you mentioned. So, for example, if you take the family one first, we all make or should make a conscious choice about where are we going to make trade-offs and where are we not, quite frankly. And, I can think of my own journey where, with my wife and my family, we've agreed
Mm.
that, yes, I would do some international work, but we would never relocate internationally, for example, because all of our friends and extended family are here. So that was where we drew the red line.
Mm.
But equally, I can think of other people on the family front who have said, actually, I'm only working so I have money to do stuff with my family. I want to spend my life with my family, not doing 60 hours a week at work. So everybody has to draw their own red line. And I think that's fine. I think that's
Yeah.
very legitimate. And I think we all need to draw our lines. And in my own way, I've drawn lines as well. So for example, weekends was a completely different set of rules for a number of reasons. First of all, it was my downtime. So it was my
Yes.
relaxation and recharge time. Secondly, it was time with the family. So we went places, we did things, and never took calls at the weekend unless it was emergency calls.
Mm.
And I never
Mm.
sent emails at the weekend, and my team will verify that, because as soon as I do that, I'm sending a signal that I expect them to do that as well. And then I
Yeah.
change their lifestyle. And I didn't think that was my role to do. So emails came quite often,
Mm.
thick and fast on a Monday morning,
Exactly.
but never on a Sunday, or never on a Saturday. So
Yeah.
and those were some of the kind of
Mm.
guidelines, if you like, that I tried to adhere to.
As you know, we have a dear interest in short learning solutions about driving growth through great leadership, personal development, team development, and so on. But from your perspective, and if you look back, so how central has the L&D been to securing the changes in the organizations you've been working in?
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because actually when I was at HSBC, I was the head of learning for Europe and the Middle East for the bank, which is, it's like 75,000 employees in that organization.
Mm.
Well, actually, I was also the global head of talent for HSBC for a year. I took a secondment there because I wanted to specialize at board level in one of the areas I was passionate about. Learning and development specifically, and people construe different things from these terms. I don't get
Mm.
too hung up about it, but uh, I think of it more from a talent strategy perspective. So to perform at a high level, an organization needs to have the right talent in the right roles, well remunerated, and well led. Just
Mm.
keeping it simple. And there are a number of ways they can get the talent on board. And I use the three B's. It's either I'm going to buy the talent in from outside. I'm going to build the talent. The talent that's already here or the talent I've just acquired needs development, and that's probably where the L&D element comes in. or I'm going to borrow it, which means from partner organizations, supplier organizations, consulting firms, others who have got unique talent that we need, and we're going to borrow that for a little while. So the 3 Bs is how I think about it. So learning and development, I guess, is a theme that runs across most organizations, but it's not an end in itself in my mind. It's usually a means to an end is how I would think about it. For example, at Pandora, we discovered that based on one of our key metrics, which was leadership effectiveness, which we measured right across the whole company. So we asked every team to measure their leader and give feedback. We discovered that actually some of our leadership scores were quite low. And that was driving attrition, it was driving low advocacy and a number of other outcomes that we weren't happy with. So for the first time, we put in place a program called Pandora Rise, which was a first-line leader development program. And it's one of the things I'm most proud of doing. I think now over 2,000 leaders have been through the program across the business. And that was a 5-day program, cohort sponsored by a senior executive who went through the same program and learned some of the basics about leadership and leading a team. So it's absolutely got a role to play. Absolutely got a role to play. Enjoys.
Oh, that's great. That's good. So let's make a jump here. I mean, you are been working a lot in the transitioning of companies, and now you're leaving the corporate world from the inside and moving it from look at it through your glasses into the consultancy world, you can say. So how has this shift been so far, and what do you expect it to be?
Yeah. Well, not for the first time, Peter, as well. So this is the second time I have, I'm calling it reactivating my business, right? So back in 2018, I left HSBC because although the experience there had been terrific, I knew that really what I wanted was a C-suite position. So I set up my own company, which was a consulting business. And it landed a really exciting assignment in the Middle East, actually, in Dubai, for about 6 months, working with the CEO there, turning around what is now the largest unsecured lending business in the Middle East. And that was quite a dramatic turnaround. I came back to the UK after that one and did another assignment with a British aerospace company. Here in the UK, a very different industry, very different location. So this
was that from a perspective of a chief for hire, or was it actually as a consultancy assignment?
It was an assignment. Yeah, these were both consulting assignments. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. And now you're starting up your own podcast show. Tell me more about it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. So as you've heard me say a few times, getting the right leadership is absolutely critical at the top of a business. And in most times we think about the CEO in that capacity. Really, if the CEO is not driving the transformation is not going to happen. People put in place chief transformation officers, which are great. But they're there to help expedite it, not to lead it. So one of the things that's always made me curious is the unique DNA of CEOs who take on a transformation brief. Right? There are many CEOs who take on a brief to look after a business which is performing very well and to keep the revenue growing and keep the profits coming in. And keep the ship sailing and do some new product development and all those important things. But there are a smaller group of CEOs who specifically are drawn to companies that are maybe broken, or what I call ugly ducklings that want to become swans again. And that's what the podcast is focused on. So it's called Transformer CEOs for that reason. And I've got some very interesting names lined up. We're going to come and talk about their journey, and also a little bit like you've done with me, their own DNA as well, what makes them unique and what makes them suitable for this kind of role. And yeah, so I can't wait. Filming starts soon, and hopefully we're going to launch around about November time.
Oh, that's exciting. And the people you want to have aboard, is that only the big company guys, girls, or is it really, going through? Because you can see this pattern from the SME side and up, and
Great point.
I would say also most companies, at least who've been around, they have the ups and the downs and up. And, when you're in the downs, you need this.
Yeah.
So how do you see that?
Absolutely. It's a great point, Peter. And one of the guests that I was speaking to yesterday, he's a young CEO. He's in his 20s. He has a small business which is growing very fast. He has some very major clients. He's in the tech space. And his transformation is all about how have I transformed as a leader from being a sole trader to now having a team of 100. Having locations in multi-sites. How have I evolved my product? And actually, how has he evolved his market sector as well? So he's been a transformer in a number of different ways. And I don't want to say too much more because I'm looking forward to that conversation with him on camera as well. But yeah, so it's both small that have done something transformational in product or sector, but also some of the larger well-known brands that have maybe grown exponentially or grown from nothing to be huge very quickly, or well-established brands that have fallen into one of these troughs you described and now are back on the crest of the wave.
That's going to be super interesting to follow and listen into.
Thank you.
Finally, if you, to our listeners, would give a golden rule of leadership, lifestyle, and growth. I know there's 3 questions in here, but what is it?
I would have to say, I mean, it's like this conversation, there's no filter on this. I'm this is me, this is who I am. And so authenticity has got to be there. It goes to integrity, it goes to trust, it goes to honesty. It's such a core kind of value, if you like. It has to be there. So when I speak to the chairman, or I speak to the CEO, or I speak to investors, or my peers on the executive team, they need to know that when I say something, it's truthful, it's honest, it's my best view at the time, it's what I stand behind, and it's real. And so authenticity for me is so important. And I think from a leadership point of view, teams, if we want our teams to follow us, we've got to be who we are. There may be elements of who we are that they're not so keen on. That's okay. But at least it's authentic. It's truly who we are. We're not trying to fake it. We're not trying to be someone we're not, because people can see through that very quickly. So you've got to be your real self and build and evolve your real self to be, better at certain things. I think that's fine. But don't fundamentally change who you are. And I think in this kind of very social media influence driven world, there's a lot of people chasing something that they're never going to be. And so I would encourage everybody to kind of look deep at who you are and amplify that.
And that also trusting yourself, being confident in yourself with integrity, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, some rapid fire questions here. Is there any leader who has really inspired you?
Well, like I said, lots of leaders that I've worked for over the years have taught me a lot. If I was to pick a big name, though, I think one of the guys who's probably most in my space and is an ex-GE guy, of course, as well, is Jack Welch and his turnaround of that brand. Now, there were still lots of deep problems in GE when he was finished, which ultimately led to the breakup of the company. But his turnaround in the 80s, I think, gets a lot of airtime. So I think that's up there.
That's the book we all read in end of the 80s, I guess.
That's right.
It was beautiful reading. Yeah. So is there a biggest myth about human resources you want to bust?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a myth, Peter. I would say that a lot of people chase qualification, particularly professional qualification in the function. I tend to think that's not the most important thing. I've never hired based on the number of professional qualifications people have had. What I'm much more interested in is people's commercial thinking, their influence ability. Lots of people in the function are technically pretty good, but they just have no influence, they have no impact. And it's tragic, but it happens a lot. And so, one of the things I'm grateful for was when I did my education, I started with a business degree and moved into the function. So understanding economics, understanding a bit of finance, a bit of accounting, a bit of other things, marketing is great to give what you say and do more credibility.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. So before we wrap up here, I'm going to do a quick note about Short and Short Go. So that's Short Go is coming up now. It's the latest global launch to smaller and medium companies. And this is not just about a learning management system. It's a plug and play training system built for growing companies. With over 750 ready to go courses in leadership, compliance, team, and more. Guided onboarding. Companies in the SME can launch world-class training in less than an hour. Short Go makes what used to be complex and very expensive, simple, fast, and affordable. And that is coming up right now into the market. So I'm going to do that as a small marketing statement within here. You know what, Erik? It's such a beautiful having you on board. I wish you the best. I'm certain you're going to have other problems coming up, and that's choosing what you really want to do, because we all know that time is precious and that priority is super important. I would like to thank you so much being on Growth Leaders by Short.
Thank you, Peter. Great being on, and I've loved the conversation. So thank you again.
Thank you.